It started with a velvet case quietly carried through a private corridor inside Kensington Palace, an object so emotionally charged that even senior aides reportedly refused to speak its name aloud. By dawn, whispers had already spread across royal households that Princess Catherine had reclaimed one of Princess Diana's most treasured brooches, a piece many believed would never leave Camilla's private circle again. But what truly stunned palace insiders was not the jewelry itself. It was the message behind the move, and who it appeared to humiliate in the process. Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update. At first, the palace attempted to treat the entire matter as nothing more than another exaggerated rumor born from royal fascination and endless speculation. But according to various interpretations circulating among senior royal commentators, the tension surrounding the sapphire and diamond brooch had existed quietly for years, hidden beneath carefully controlled smiles and public appearances designed to project unity. Reports suggest the piece had always carried emotional significance far beyond its material value because it was closely associated with Princess Diana during some of the most defining moments of her life inside the monarchy. To Catherine, insiders whisper, it represented continuity. To others within the institution, however, it represented something far more dangerous. Influence, memory, and the enduring emotional authority of Diana herself. What made the situation even more explosive was the secrecy surrounding the transfer. Palace administrative streams reportedly described a late-night movement involving royal jewel custodians, confidential inventory records, and direct authorization connected to Kensington Palace rather than Clarence House. That detail alone reportedly triggered alarm within Camilla's inner circle, because insiders claim the brooch had quietly become symbolic of a fragile balance established after the sun-drenched coronation of 2023. Various interpretations of internal royal dynamics suggest certain figures believed Diana's legacy had gradually been absorbed into a broader royal narrative designed to stabilize the monarchy during King Charles's reign. But Catherine's sudden reclaiming of the brooch appeared to dismantle that illusion almost overnight. Reports also suggest Prince William personally approved the retrieval after months of quiet deliberation. While no official statement was ever made, sources familiar with the palace's internal hierarchy claim William viewed the matter as deeply personal and tied directly to preserving his mother's symbolic place within the future monarchy. According to insiders whispering within royal administrative circles, he allegedly referred to the decision as a matter of legacy, a phrase that immediately intensified speculation about what was truly unfolding behind closed doors. Because within the sacred geography of the British monarchy, jewels are rarely just ornaments. They are declarations. They signal who is rising, who is fading, and whose memory continues to shape the institution long after death itself. The reaction from Camilla's supporters reportedly became impossible to ignore. Several royal commentators claimed members of her extended social circle viewed the retrieval as humiliating, even devastating, particularly because the brooch was allegedly expected to remain associated with the king's current household rather than return to William and Catherine's sphere of influence. Some insiders even described visible frustration behind palace walls as whispers spread that Catherine had not simply reclaimed a jewel, but reclaimed part of Diana's emotional legacy in the process. And once those whispers escaped into royal circles, the atmosphere reportedly shifted almost immediately. Conversations became colder. Public appearances reportedly felt more calculated. The old guard inside the monarchy suddenly appeared, divided over a question no one wanted spoken aloud: who truly carries the emotional future of the crown now? Royal commentators quickly began connecting the controversy to a deeper and far more consequential struggle unfolding inside the House of Windsor. Because according to reports emerging from both Buckingham Palace and Kensington Palace circles, the reclaiming of Diana's brooch was never really about jewelry at all. It was about legacy, bloodlines, influence, and the silent power battles that erupt whenever the monarchy senses a transition approaching. And for those watching closely, one unsettling detail became impossible to ignore. Catherine had not demanded attention. She had not made public declarations. She had simply reclaimed something tied to Diana, quietly, decisively, and without apology, which, according to palace insiders, made the move far more powerful than any public confrontation ever could have been. But the quiet reclaiming of Diana's brooch was only the surface of a much larger battle, one tied to inheritance, influence, and a royal legacy certain figures believed they had already secured forever. Long before it became the center of a royal standoff, the brooch itself carried the emotional weight of another era, one filled with heartbreak, devotion, and unfinished wounds inside the House of Windsor. Palace historians reportedly viewed it as more than jewelry. It was said to symbolize Diana's enduring connection to the future queen. And according to whispers circulating through royal archives, Catherine's sudden reclaiming of it may have reopened old fractures many believed had finally gone silent. Reports suggest the origins of the sapphire and diamond brooch can be traced back to some of the most defining years of Princess Diana's life inside the monarchy. Years marked by emotional isolation, relentless scrutiny, and the quiet determination that transformed her into one of the most beloved figures the royal family had ever seen. Royal insiders often described the piece as inseparable from Diana's public identity, because it reportedly appeared during pivotal moments when she was navigating the brutal pressures of royal duty while privately enduring enormous personal pain. Over time, according to various interpretations from palace historians, the brooch stopped being viewed as a decorative royal heirloom and instead became something far more symbolic. It represented grace under pressure, dignity during humiliation, silence during betrayal, and perhaps most importantly, it became associated with Diana's unique ability to command public affection without ever needing to force it. That emotional weight reportedly never disappeared after her death. In fact, insiders whisper that the brooch quietly remained one of the most sensitive pieces within the royal collection because of what it represented to both the institution and the public. According to sources familiar with royal archival circles, Catherine had privately admired the piece for years, but deliberately avoided discussing it openly out of respect for royal protocol and the painful history attached to Diana's memory. Palace aides allegedly understood there were certain symbols within the monarchy that carried almost sacred emotional significance, and Diana's jewelry existed in a category entirely of its own. Reports even suggest Catherine refused several opportunities to publicly reference the brooch because she feared any appearance of entitlement would trigger unnecessary comparisons or tensions inside the family. But behind the restraint, insiders claim the emotional connection remained deeply personal. At the same time, however, another interpretation of the situation had reportedly been developing within Camilla's circle after the sun-drenched coronation of 2023. According to royal commentators, some supporters of the Queen believed the monarchy had finally entered what they privately described as a new royal era, one where old rivalries and emotional divisions tied to Diana were expected to fade into history. Within those circles, reports suggest there was a growing belief that symbols associated with the previous generation of royal turmoil had gradually become absorbed into the broader identity of King Charles's reign. That is precisely why Catherine's reclaiming of the brooch allegedly sent such shockwaves through palace corridors, because to many observers, the decision appeared to challenge the idea that Diana's emotional legacy could ever truly be folded away or replaced. The debate soon spread far beyond the walls of Kensington Palace. Royal experts reportedly began openly questioning whether heirlooms carrying profound symbolic significance should follow bloodline legacy rather than marital hierarchy. Some argued the brooch belonged naturally within the future household of William and Catherine, because Diana's memory remained directly tied to the future of the crown through her sons. Others allegedly viewed that interpretation as deeply uncomfortable, because it risked reigniting tensions the monarchy had spent years trying to suppress. Yet despite the unease, public fascination only intensified. The brooch increasingly became framed, not merely as a jewel, but as a silent representation of Diana's enduring power over the royal narrative itself. Even decades later, her influence reportedly continued shaping loyalties, emotions, and divisions within the House of Windsor in ways no official strategy could fully control. And as arguments over ownership quietly intensified behind palace walls, another revelation allegedly emerged, one that transformed the dispute from emotional symbolism into outright royal confrontation. By the time the story reached Clarence House, reports suggest tempers were already beginning to fracture the careful calm surrounding the monarchy. Palace administrative whispers described an atmosphere of icy silence, tense phone calls, and stunned disbelief among figures connected to Camilla's family. Some insiders even claimed the retrieval was interpreted not as a personal decision by Catherine, but as a deliberate signal that the balance of royal influence was beginning to shift away from the Parker Bowles circle entirely. What made the situation particularly explosive was the speed with which private frustration allegedly spread through royal social networks closely tied to Camilla's household. According to various interpretations circulating among palace insiders, the reclaiming of Diana's brooch was viewed by some not merely as embarrassing, but deeply symbolic of a changing hierarchy already taking shape behind closed doors. Reports suggest several figures connected to Camilla's extended circle believed the jewel had quietly become associated with the stability of King Charles's reign after years of emotional turbulence surrounding Diana's legacy. To suddenly see it return to Catherine reportedly felt, to some, like a public dismantling of that fragile arrangement without a single official word ever needing to be spoken. The silence from William and Catherine only intensified the situation. Royal commentators repeatedly noted that neither the Prince nor Princess of Wales made any effort to deny the whispers spreading through palace corridors, and according to insiders, that silence carried enormous weight. Within the monarchy, silence is rarely empty. It is strategy. It is warning. It is power exercised without confrontation. Sources familiar with internal royal dynamics claim several senior aides interpreted the couple's refusal to publicly address the controversy as a sign they were entirely comfortable allowing speculation to grow on its own. That, according to palace administrative streams, deeply unsettled figures who had long relied on carefully managed narratives to preserve stability within the institution. At the center of the emotional fallout was the unavoidable return of Diana's memory. Reports suggest old tensions surrounding her place within royal history resurfaced almost immediately after news of the brooch spread through aristocratic circles. Some insiders allegedly viewed Catherine's reclaiming of the piece as an act of restoration, a quiet attempt to reconnect the future monarchy with the emotional legacy that still resonates so powerfully with the public decades later. Others, however, reportedly feared the move reopened wounds the institution had spent years trying to contain. Because despite every effort to modernize the monarchy's image after the sun-drenched coronation of 2023, Diana's shadow still lingered over the House of Windsor with extraordinary force. And according to royal commentators, that shadow became impossible to ignore once again the moment Catherine reclaimed something so closely tied to her memory. Comparisons to previous royal inheritance battles soon began dominating elite royal conversations. Commentators reportedly linked the dispute to earlier tensions involving titles, estates, jewelry collections, and symbolic artifacts that historically carried enormous emotional and political significance within the monarchy. Palace historians quietly noted that royal heirlooms have often functioned as unspoken declarations of legitimacy and future authority, rather than simple possessions. That is precisely why this controversy escalated so quickly behind closed doors, because insiders claim many figures inside the institution understood exactly what the brooch represented. It was not about fashion. It was not about preference. It was about which royal household would ultimately inherit the emotional center of the monarchy moving forward. Meanwhile, reports suggest King Charles found himself trapped in an increasingly uncomfortable position. Sources close to palace operations claim subtle pressure began building around him to intervene privately before tensions escalated further between competing royal circles. Yet according to insiders, the king reportedly avoided direct involvement altogether. perhaps recognizing how emotionally volatile the issue had become. Some royal commentators even suggested Charles feared that publicly interfering would only deepen comparisons between the current reign and the painful divisions of the past. And so the silence continued. But within that silence, speculation only grew darker. Because the more palace officials refused to clarify what was happening, the more insiders began whispering that the reclaiming of Diana's brooch was connected to something much larger already unfolding behind the scenes. Yet behind the emotional fallout and whispered resentment, palace figures allegedly feared something even bigger, that Catherine's move was only the opening act of a broader royal restructuring, already unfolding behind closed doors. What appeared at first to be a private jewelry matter soon began resembling something far more calculated. According to various interpretations circulating among royal commentators, Catherine's reclaiming of Diana's brooch may have formed part of a larger effort by William and the Princess of Wales to restore what they viewed as the original emotional legacy of the future crown. And if true, it reportedly marked one of the clearest signs yet that a new royal order was beginning to take shape. As speculation intensified behind palace walls, reports suggest Prince William had quietly spent years ensuring that key pieces connected to Princess Diana's memory would eventually return to the center of the future monarchy. Insiders familiar with royal administrative circles claim the Prince of Wales became increasingly protective of Diana-linked heirlooms after witnessing how emotionally powerful his mother's legacy remained with the public long after her death. According to palace observers, William allegedly viewed those symbols not simply as sentimental objects, but as part of a broader responsibility tied to the future emotional identity of the crown itself. That responsibility reportedly became even more important as King Charles's reign entered an increasingly fragile chapter marked by illness, pressure, and growing uncertainty about the monarchy's long-term direction. Within that atmosphere, Catherine's role allegedly began evolving in ways that extended far beyond traditional royal expectations. Reports suggest senior aides increasingly viewed the Princess of Wales as central to preserving stability inside the institution, precisely because of her ability to project calm restraint while carrying enormous public affection. Royal commentators frequently compared her position to the unique emotional space Diana once occupied within the monarchy, though insiders insist Catherine approached the responsibility very differently. Where Diana reportedly transformed the monarchy through emotional disruption, Catherine allegedly strengthened it through quiet discipline and continuity. That distinction, according to palace sources, became essential to William's long-term vision for the crown. And the reclaiming of Diana's brooch suddenly appeared to embody that strategy perfectly. Palace administrative whispers claim aides connected to Kensington Palace had quietly begun prioritizing what some insiders described as legacy continuity regarding future royal symbolism. The phrase itself reportedly surfaced repeatedly during confidential discussions involving public image, ceremonial appearances, and historical associations tied to the next generation of the monarchy. According to various interpretations of those conversations, the objective was not to erase the past, but to reconnect the institution with symbols the public already trusted emotionally. And few figures in modern royal history carried greater emotional power than Diana. That is why Catherine's reclaiming of the brooch allegedly resonated so deeply among palace traditionalists, because in their eyes the move did not represent rebellion, it represented restoration. Royal commentators also began openly framing Catherine as the natural modern successor to Diana's public role within the monarchy, though in a far more controlled and strategically disciplined form. Reports suggest even some previously skeptical palace figures gradually accepted that Catherine possessed an increasingly rare ability to unify public admiration with institutional loyalty at a time when the crown desperately needed both. According to insiders, senior royal traditionalists reportedly viewed her restraint, composure, and careful adherence to protocol as proof she could carry emotional symbolism without destabilizing the monarchy itself. That perception allegedly strengthened dramatically after the brooch controversy exploded behind closed doors. Because while tensions grew louder around her, Catherine reportedly refused to engage publicly at all. And within the monarchy, silence maintained under pressure is often interpreted as strength. The contrast reportedly became impossible for palace figures to ignore. On one side stood a future queen increasingly associated with continuity, discipline, and Diana's enduring emotional legacy. On the other stood a growing sense of unease among circles fearful that influence inside the institution was quietly shifting away from them. Reports suggest several senior aides privately concluded that the reclaiming of the brooch marked a symbolic turning point in the internal balance of royal power. Not because Catherine demanded authority openly, but because the institution itself appeared to be reorganizing emotionally around her without resistance. And once that realization began spreading through aristocratic and royal networks alike, the atmosphere surrounding the monarchy reportedly became even more fragile. Because symbols inside the House of Windsor rarely move without consequences following close behind. But while Catherine's influence appeared to grow stronger inside palace circles, the emotional reaction from Camilla's side allegedly became impossible to contain, and the tension soon threatened to spill beyond private royal walls. Behind the polished smiles of public engagements and carefully choreographed appearances, insiders whisper that Buckingham Palace had become deeply divided over what Diana's legacy should represent in the reign to come. Some reportedly viewed Catherine's reclaiming of the brooch as an act of restoration. Others allegedly saw it as a devastating rejection of Camilla's place within the monarchy's emotional history. Either way, one reality had become increasingly difficult for palace aides to ignore. The symbolism was impossible to control anymore. Reports suggest royal staff began quietly noticing a growing separation between competing palace factions as conversations surrounding Diana's legacy returned to the center of private royal discussions once again. According to insiders, the reclaiming of the brooch did not simply reopen old emotional wounds. It reignited deeper fears about who would ultimately shape the future identity of the monarchy itself. Camilla's supporters allegedly became increasingly uneasy as Catherine's popularity continued rising both inside palace circles and among the public, with some reportedly fearing that Diana's emotional legacy was now strengthening the Princess of Wales in ways no royal strategy could reverse. Meanwhile, public fascination surrounding Diana-linked heirlooms intensified media scrutiny dramatically, forcing palace aides into an increasingly difficult position as every symbolic gesture became dissected for hidden meaning. Royal historians reportedly began debating whether certain royal artifacts carried emotional authority far beyond official protocol, arguing that some heirlooms become inseparable from the people who gave them meaning in the first place. And according to various interpretations circulating through royal commentary circles, Diana's presence still carried extraordinary influence over public perception of the monarchy decades after her death. That reality allegedly became impossible to ignore once Catherine quietly reclaimed the brooch, without explanation, without celebration, and without seeking attention. The silence itself reportedly made the moment even more powerful. Because within the House of Windsor, quiet actions often speak louder than royal announcements ever could. At the center of it all stood King Charles, reportedly focused on avoiding further division during an already fragile period marked by personal strain and growing pressure surrounding the future of the crown. Sources suggest the king understood how emotionally volatile the situation had become and feared any visible intervention might deepen the fractures already spreading behind palace walls. But despite efforts to contain the fallout, insiders claim one final realization had already settled across royal circles. Catherine's reclaiming of Diana's treasured piece was never truly about jewelry. It was about memory, legacy, and the silent struggle over who would ultimately define the emotional future of the monarchy once the old era finally faded away. Reports suggest Catherine herself viewed the brooch not as a possession, but as a symbol of continuity between the monarchy's past and its uncertain future. Royal commentators increasingly framed the moment as part of William and Catherine's long-term vision for a more emotionally connected crown, one rooted not in spectacle, but in trust, stability, and inherited memory. Diana's symbolic presence reportedly remained deeply woven into public perception of the royal family, And according to insiders, Camilla's circle quietly understood the reclaiming as a clear shift in palace power dynamics. By the end, the monarchy appeared calm again on the surface. Yet beneath that silence, something fundamental had changed forever. Because within the House of Windsor, jewels were never merely ornaments, they were declarations of loyalty, inheritance, and the silent power to shape royal history itself. Even decades after her death, Diana's presence reportedly continues to move through palace corridors like an unspoken force no royal strategy has ever fully contained. And according to royal observers, Catherine's reclaiming of the brooch may have revealed something the institution has quietly understood for years, that Diana's emotional connection to the public never disappeared. It merely waited for the next royal figure capable of carrying it forward without trying to erase the woman who created it in the first place. Reports suggest public reaction overwhelmingly favoured Catherine's connection to Diana's legacy, with royal commentators quietly acknowledging that the Princess of Wales now occupies a rare emotional position once held almost exclusively by Diana herself. According to palace insiders, younger royal aides increasingly view Catherine as the monarchy's stabilising figure during a time of uncertainty, transition, and growing pressure surrounding the future of the crown. Royal historians have reportedly compared her rise to the emotional influence Diana carried throughout the 1980s and 1990s, though insiders insist Catherine's strength comes not from disruption, but from continuity. That distinction allegedly matters enormously within palace walls. Because where previous royal conflicts created instability, Catherine's presence reportedly restores calm, while still carrying the emotional resonance the public once associated so deeply with Diana. At the centre of that emotional continuity stands Prince William himself. Sources close to royal operations claim he remains deeply protective of artifacts connected to his mother, not because of their financial value, but because of what they symbolise about memory, sacrifice, and identity within the monarchy. Reports suggest William has long feared that Diana's emotional legacy could gradually be diluted by institutional reinvention, which is why Catherine's quiet reclaiming of the brooch reportedly carried such personal significance for him. To insiders, the gesture symbolised something much larger than inheritance. It represented preservation, the preservation of emotional truth inside an institution built on protocol, silence, and survival. Commentators increasingly argue that the monarchy does not survive by replacing emotional icons, but by carefully preserving continuity between generations. And according to various interpretations circulating among royal circles, the brooch controversy exposed unresolved tensions the institution never fully escaped after Diana's death. Some reportedly believed time would eventually soften her influence over public imagination. Instead, the opposite appears to have happened. Her symbolic presence continues shaping royal identity decades later, influencing loyalties, perceptions, and even future power structures within the House of Windsor itself. As the palace returned to its carefully managed routines and public silence once again settled over royal life, one detail reportedly continued haunting private conversations among courtiers: the image of Catherine holding Diana's brooch for the first time after its quiet return. Because to many within the institution, that moment represented more than sentiment. It marked the passing of symbolic authority from one royal era into another, while leaving certain figures painfully aware that influence inside the monarchy can disappear far faster than titles ever do. Reports suggest Catherine emerged stronger than ever in both public image and palace standing, while royal commentators framed the incident as symbolic preparation for William's future reign. Meanwhile, insiders claim Camilla's household became noticeably more cautious regarding public legacy battles afterward, quietly recognizing how emotionally powerful Diana's memory still remained within the monarchy and beyond it. Now, according to palace observers, the institution increasingly appears centered around William and Catherine's vision of continuity, stability, and inherited emotional trust. Some insiders even whisper that the next era of the crown has already quietly begun, not through proclamations or ceremonies, but through subtle shifts in symbolism that reveal where the monarchy's emotional future truly lies. And while palace officials may never publicly acknowledge the depth of the conflict surrounding the brooch, those closest to the institution reportedly understand one unavoidable truth. Because in the House of Windsor, history is rarely rewritten through speeches or ceremonies, but through the quiet reclaiming of symbols powerful enough to change the future of the crown forever. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in next one.